thanks so much for joining us today.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're so glad to have Reverend Megan Cochran joining us in conversation today, and even more than that, to be a part of the committee for Cyclical San Diego. And so I just want to go ahead and lead with that and ask, it's a new thing for you serving this year alongside of us. So what kind of drew you into the Cyclical San Diego world?
I think let me just say I'm the pastor at Westminster, and we call ourselves a place where art, faith, and nature meet. And we are a redeveloping church, and I have a huge heart for redeveloping. And so going into existing churches and thinking about how can we take the core, the DNA of this place, and translate it into language that will speak to this time and this place that we are living in. And so I think there's a lot of connecting points between redeveloping and new church development. And I like being around creative people and people who are trying new things and different things. And I want to be as supportive of that as I can. And plus, Daniel, when you ask someone to do something, it's really hard to say no. So no, it's an honor. I love your leadership style. I love your presence, and I'm just thrilled to be able to be a part of this team and to see where God takes us with Cyclical.
Yeah, Megan, I really appreciate that because I feel like one theme that I really see in new church starters is beginning from the roots, from the start as a collaborative thing. And those, I don't know if it ever existed, but the days of like the Lone Ranger, star, solo church planter, to me, from what I've seen, especially in San Diego, it's teams of people coming together, and we're always better together,
Yeah.
especially for the kingdom. And so I wonder if you can say a little bit about both of us have been ordained Presbyterian ministers for a while. And so, what does it look like for you to try to initiate change within the system for the sake of starting new things?
Mhm. I think when I first got to Westminster, I said, hey, going wisdom is when you're a new pastor, you don't make any changes for 1 year when you join a church. We're not going to do that. So I'm going to make changes, and you're going to tell me when you're upset about them, and we're going to talk about it and figure out a way forward together. So I think a lot of it is being brave enough to just like start and try things. And this congregation has always been open to creativity, to change, to difference. I mean, they had like men dancing in leotards, in the sanctuary in the 80s. I mean, they have been on the cutting edge of what it means to be creative in church world. So for this context, there was already some openness there. I think in bigger church context, though, it's a lot about building trust. It's a lot about getting to know each other and breaking down some of those barriers and preconceived ideas that we have of each other. And I think, we talk about creator God. Creating is all about change. We just don't like to call it that because change is scary. And so I think if we can tap into that creativity that we love to think about and talk about in relationship to God, and embrace our identity as co-creators with God, some really beautiful things can happen even in these institutions, right? These man-made institutions that are like inherently broken. And so some really beautiful things can still come from those places.
Yeah, I really love that. I feel like sometimes people outside looking in will say, well, if you do a house church or a coffee shop that's a church also, like that feels creative, and it is, but there's also a sense of creativity as a reflection of creator God. And what does that look like embodied in an incarnational sense in relationship? And that doesn't always have to be the kind of cutting edge, innovative stuff, but it breathes life into the community. And so I love that idea of we look forward in a lot of ways by looking back and reaching
Yeah.
into the heritage of churches who are alive, and that being able to speak into a new context amongst folks maybe who've never been part of faith and church life. But there's a rich, not only history, it's like a living history that we're able to invite people into. So that's awesome.
Exactly. And as you said, context is everything. So what is going to work here in Point Loma in our community will not work in another community. And it really is about getting to know your neighborhood and your people, and trusting God to find a way forward for all of you. I think I'm gonna forget his name, but the translation of scripture that says, Jesus put skin on and walked and moved into the neighborhood or whatever.
Yes.
I love that idea of getting in the neighborhood, the embodiedness of Jesus. I think is really important for this work.
Yes, yes. Uh, I think our friend Eugene Peterson
Yes,
in
thank you.
Canada.
Oh my gosh, my friends are gonna give me such a hard time about forgetting his name.
I'm sure he would say that the word is central, so you don't worry about it. That's awesome.
I love
That's
it.
awesome. Yeah. Well, Megan, I do know that Westminster is really just such a creative and loving community. And one of the ways that I saw that spring into action with just so much humility as well happened towards the end of last year as one of our cyclical starter churches, Ebenezer in Linda Vista, engaged a really creative ministry. And your session and your church came alongside, and I'd love if you could share a little bit of that story.
Yeah, so I know Noelle from our paths crossing in some different ways, and then my church also is forming a relationship with Bayside Community Center in Linda Vista. So we already have some deepening bridges to the Linda Vista community. So I think it was at one of the cyclical meetings, and I heard Noelle talking about this shower and laundry van that they were hoping to get, and they were, short $5,000 or something like that. We're still doing the fundraising of it, and our church has financially been doing pretty well in the midst of this time. We've taken some big risks, and we've also been given some really big gifts in the midst of that. And so I think a really important thing to think about when giving is that generosity begets generosity, just like
Mm.
love begets love. And so I think you always gain from giving. You always do. And so for us, $5,000, it's a lot of money, right? It's a lot of money. And I just came to session. Honestly, I just had this idea. I said, we can do this. I didn't even really talk to anyone about it, Noelle or anyone. I just said, I'm going to talk to session. And my session, as I said, is they are brave and they are bold, and they are trying to follow in the way of Jesus always, And so I said, this is the situation, this is what's happening. Can we do this? And they said, yes, yes, let's do this. So they wrote the check, got it out like the next day. Noelle was like, whoa, you all work quick over there at Westminster, So they really just went for it, and it's beautiful. And we actually, in that same time period, we actually got $100,000 gift in that same time period. And 50,000 of it is going for a building project here, but 50,000 of it is for our church to give away. And that, to me, there's nothing more gospel than that, right? Than giving
Yeah.
away what you have. I also think it's a sign of a healthy church. When you're
Mm.
looking outward and giving outward, it is a sign that you are trusting God, and that you are living into the faith that you proclaim. So that's our story, and we're so excited that it worked out and we could be that generous. We just we want to be good stewards of everything we have. And sometimes these moments present themselves and it just becomes clear that it is like a God thing and you have to do it. And so this is how we were good stewards in that moment.
Yeah, Megan, I really appreciate how, because of course, from Cyclical San Diego's side, we're going to start giving out small grants to our starter churches, and so finances, of course, we'd always love to receive gifts, but I love how this was born out of an ongoing conversation about what it means to be the church, and this opportunity came up. Your session responded quickly and bravely and with lots of love, but it came out of this journey that they were on, and relationship and an expression that was true to who your church was. To me, that just makes so much sense, and I really appreciate when I started this work directing Cyclical San Diego, one of the big research pieces that encouraged me was churches, established churches who support new churches. It's actually a move towards health. So they don't have to be completely set. One day in the future, when all of our ducks are in a row, then we'll give. It was more, hey, things could be better, but we're gonna give and we're gonna go for it. And that actually is a catalyst, like you said, generosity begets generosity. I love that that's just true in the midst of your story.
Yes, it really is. And it just it's also, you can't be a part of something like that and not experience a sense of awe in something bigger than you. And so I think that's really an important piece of it. And like our people feel, even session members asked this, when we were thinking about, giving the gift and having the conversation, they said, can this be the beginning of a relationship? And how can it not? How can it not be the beginning of a relationship? And so that feels like an exciting thing too. It's investing. You're investing in God's future, which is really, it's a beautiful thing. I mean, who couldn't be excited about that? So it's good.
Yeah, Megan, I'm so grateful that you're a part of the Cyclical San Diego team. And I hear in your retelling of the stories of faith in Westminster just a great pastoral love and a deep insight into the ways that God is using you to lead them. And to me, that's exactly the dream for our new churches within Cyclical. We're, like you said, the context matters so much. And so in that sense, there's no template, there's no silver bullet. Here's 5 things and guaranteed success.
Right.
But
Don't
I
even read those
trust,
articles.
yeah,
Don't even
totally,
read
right?
them.
Toss them out. But I trust so much in your pastoral wisdom and insight, and that's a real gift to our movement here. So I'm just excited for everything that's ahead.
Well, it's an honor to be a part of it. So thank you. And thanks be to God, right?
Amen. Thank you.